Good morning, and today we are looking at knowing your numbers in Xero. So not your client's numbers, just your numbers. So let's have a look at Xero and why we would use Xero to measure our numbers. Now we deal with many clients, big clients, little clients. One of the things that they are most keen on is getting a really strong understanding of their numbers and therefore a great understanding of their business. So I wanted to go through the 7 most important numbers in your business and what they mean to us as business owners. So let me just switch screens. I'm going to look at the pipeline, sales reporting, sales trends, the P&L, corporation tax, what you are owed and what you owe, as these are the most 7 important numbers in your business, and all of that information is there in Xero so long as you know where to look for it. So let's have a look at number 1, pipeline. So if I go into the dashboard, we can find the pipeline from business, go into invoice or go into quotes. Now I'm going to go to invoices. In fact, actually, I'm going to look at the sales overview. That's probably the better place to start, where I can see my invoices, and below my invoices, I can see my quotes. Now, pipeline is really important to measure. And one of the things we try to encourage all of our clients to do, if they don't have an external or third-party ordering system or sales quoting system, is to build simple sales quotes in Xero. So let's just have a look at one that I've sent here. So you'll see that I send a lot of quotes to Bob the Builder. I sent him one on the 13th of June, and I used a standard template of item codes to create a power hour that I want to offer Bob for £1,000. That could be several power hours for that sort of money. Could be a day coaching, who knows? To work through the one issue that is keeping him awake at night. Now, one of the most important things in business is to have that pipeline there. You want to know who you're selling to and who is a warm lead, a hot lead, who's ready to buy from you, who's not ready to buy from you. And sales quotes are a really great way of doing that if you've got to the point where you're quoting a service for them. Now, too often we speak to clients and we ask them what their pipeline is and what's coming up. And then, there's perhaps a conversation in an email, there's a list on their desk, there's something noted in a diary or a book, but they don't have their pipeline in one single place. Now, if you were to create your sales quotes in Xero, your pipeline would be there ready for you to monitor and actively manage. Let's go back to sales overview again in Xero. So you can see the ones that you are drafting. These could be the people you're having conversations with and you're building a profile of what they might want to buy from you. So it could be a series of one-to-ones or products or services that you're building up. You've got ones that you've issued and quotes that you've sent to your clients. So that's your pipeline, that's your warm pipeline. It's probably a hot pipeline of people who are wanting to buy for you and you've sent them a quote and quoted them a price. And then these green ones are ones that have been accepted. So this is really important. So these are accepted quotes which are now ready to be turned into product services and billable invoices. And of course you've got expired ones. So these are just as important. Even though the customer may not have accepted your quote now, they might want that product or service later. So it's really important to have everything that's expired into some kind of nurture sequence or ongoing conversation so that you can perhaps pick them up a little bit later. So let me just take this one that's been sent. Why do I like Xero quotes? So let me send this one. I'm going to issue it to Bob and I'm going to send it to our help desk email. Help desk account. And I'm going to send a quote out. Now, you can put an expiry date on these quotes. This one you can see is expired because it's one I set up a couple of weeks ago for another demo. But if I pop over into my inbox, you can see that I've got a quote here. This is what your customer is going to see. So you can change a template so that gets rid of the pound and the GBP. You can add a little bit of text to your email so that it's more personal and more engaging, but it's quite nice. It's got a little bit of branding in it, and I'm going to view my quote online, and here I might make a comment on it and say, yep, quite like this, but price is too high. So your comment, your customer is going to come back to you with a quote, and he's going to send you that information. Now they can't accept an expired quote, which is another reason why this is important to keep an eye on. So let's go back to our quotes, and I'm going to copy this one. Actually, I'm going to revise this one. Could copy it and save the same template to somebody else. I'm going to make my quote within date now, perhaps not that too far. Let's do plus 7 days. And I'm going to reduce my price to 900 because he said it was a bit expensive. I'm going to update that. I'm going to send that out so you can see how quickly it is to edit, manage and send quotes out to your customers. So here, updated. You can edit this before it goes, send it out. You can send a copy to yourself if you wanted to see one. And hopefully, if I go back into my inbox here, let's just wait a minute or two for this to pop up. Actually, let me check again and make sure that I emailed it to help desk. I didn't, it went to me. I want to send it into my help desk. It should pop up here in just a second. So you can see how quickly this gets to your customer. And I'm going to pop into my quote. That looks good. I'm going to look at it online. And this time I'm going to accept the quote because it's a bargain. I'm going to come back to my Xero account, and if I refresh this, you've got full audit trail. There we go. Have a full audit trail in a minute when it all catches up. It's being a bit slow. So you can see the edits and the changes and the messages that I've sent to and from, the messages that came from Bob. So you can track the whole order process between yourself and your client, and I'm hoping that by the time I go back here into my sales overview, that this has now been accepted and we can track our quotes. So it's a really handy tool for tracking your pipeline. So number 2, I'm going to go back to our dashboard, and now I'm going to look at sales. If I go into my invoices or my sales overview, what I'm interested in here is looking at all of the invoices that are outstanding. In particular, I'm interested in the ones that are awaiting payment. So any of the links at the top, any of the menu items that have that are blue can be clicked on and can be sorted. So if I was doing my credit control, I could be looking at the last or the most recent items outstanding or the oldest items outstanding. Now you can see that I've added expected dates in for payment for City Limousines and Port and Phillip Freight. So if I was actively managing my credit control on a daily basis, I would be perhaps talking to Ridgeway University. I can click on my line item here. I can see the details of who I need to ring and what their numbers are. I can add a conversation update. So maybe they've made a promise to pay and they're going to pay me on the 14th of July. I can save that, and then all of those notes are in my system. Now, Port and Phillip, I'm going to have a look at this one. I'm going to right click on this and open it in a new tab. I'm also going to right click on this one and open in a new tab. Now, Port and Phillip made a promise to pay, and as well as making a note in my accounts, I've also added, if I just edit this invoice, I've also added a comment in the reference field of promise to pay, which might seem a bit odd, but bear with me, I'll show you why I did that in just a moment. This one is disputed, so I would add a comment down here in my history to say that this has been disputed. So you can see I've removed the planned payment date. And I might add a great lengthy discussion there about why it's disputed, what the issue is. I'm just going to save that. But I'm also adding a note up here in the reference referred to Bob. Now, why would I put that in the reference, you ask? Again, bear with me, I'll show you in a few minutes. So the Xero invoices is the best way, the Xero invoice overview is the best way where you can see some of the individual items that are still outstanding. Things to look out for here are items that are in draft. So these are invoices where you might have raised the sales invoices, perhaps you're still waiting for a price, or you're still waiting for somebody to confirm, or still waiting to finish a product or service before you can invoice them. But quite often what happens is you finish that service, you finish the product, you deliver the stuff, and then you forget to approve that invoice and convert it. So one of the things you should be doing at each month end is going into your invoices and double checking that you haven't left anything in drafts accidentally and left your profit on the table. So these are invoices that you perhaps should have sent and you might have forgotten about. Now, if we just go into our sales overview, a nice little snapshot here is total amounts that are sitting in draft, total amounts that are in awaiting payment, and those that are overdue. And it's these that are overdue where we can run our credit control from and start following up with all of these. So we can send statements to everybody, we can chase individual ones, or we can pay them off if our clients have told us that they're going to pay and perhaps the cash hasn't cleared the bank account yet. What's also nice, but often overlooked, is these two little graphs here. Now, most of us know who our top 1 or 2 customers are, but not everybody can say who their 3rd, 4th and 5th customers are. And this is quite useful because you've got people that are really enjoying, really liking what you're doing, big fans of your work, but they're 3rd, 4th and 5th ranking customers. So take a look at those and see what you can do to help improve your customer relations, what you can upsell, what you can add to complement what you're already selling to them, and perhaps build on those numbers. Right, let's take a look at number 3 most important statistic. That is your sales trends, which you'll find in your profit and loss report. Now, the profit and loss report, I really like this older version of the P&L where you can see more details and you can see the different snapshots, the year to date, the month to date, current financial years, actuals versus budgets if you've got your budgets in there. And for that reason, I always use the old school Xero P&L reports. And I always break sales down into their individual component income streams. So if you've got cool stuff, online programs, projects, rolling programs, that kind of thing, we want to see those sales trends. We want to see what products and services are selling and what products and services are the big sellers, the high sellers, how they're moving from one month to the next. So if our sales of cool stuff is consistently 5,000 and suddenly drops in this example to 4, then I'd be looking at those to find out why my sales have dropped and what I could potentially do about that, either before the month end so that I've got time to make up those numbers, or perhaps some of those invoices that I've raised are still sat in drafts or my client has terminated. So we need to be looking at those on a monthly basis to look at our trends. 4th most important numbers are our profit and loss account numbers. Now, a standard P&L from Xero is listed in alphabetical order for all of our costs here, which is not terribly useful for managing your business as a whole. So you'll notice down the bottom that you've got different layout options. So I'm going to choose a new layout. This, in true blue beta fashion, is one I've created earlier. So I've got snapshots of my P&L where the account codes are all grouped, and I might be sending those out to banks, investors, people who might be interested in seeing how my business is performing, but I don't want to send them the detail. But from a management perspective, I want to know the detail. The devil is in the detail, and if you can measure it, you can manage it, is what we say. So I'm going to look at my profit and loss account detail. I'm going to apply that layout. I'm going to use it only once. Now talk to your accountant if your Xero accounts are not set up in this way, and get them to compartmentalise and customise your P&L so that it helps you manage your business. So here, for example, I can now see what my finance costs are, my marketing costs are, my motor expenses, my office expenses. So if I had a premises, for example, and I was struggling to pay the bills in COVID-19 and then during this pandemic, I can make an informed decision about whether I want to keep that office open or whether I want to close it. Now, your professional costs could be consultants, audit and accountancy, and many, many others, and travel and entertainment. These are things that are probably reducing now during the pandemic, but might increase afterwards. So they're things to keep an eye on. Number 5, most important figure for your business, your key performance indicators, your most important numbers to know, is your corporation tax. Now, this is something, again, to speak to your accountant about. Few people are capable of doing their own internal journaling. Some are, and we do have clients that are capable of putting journals in their own systems, and all their bookkeepers are anyway, and so they accrue their corporation tax. Mostly we do it for them. So talk to your accountant if you want to get this detailed in your profit and loss account. But we believe that it's fundamentally important, if you're running a limited company, that you have a transparent visibility of your corporation tax liabilities. So this is one area where we would recommend accruing a corporation tax liability on a monthly or at least quarterly basis. Now, quite often when we review a set of accounts, we've got this long list of account codes, and corporation tax is sitting amongst them as an operating expense. So corporation tax in itself is not a tax deductible expense, so should always appear down here below the operating profit line as a non-operating expense. And if you want to go into more detail on that, then I can do that in another video. Now, if you accrue your corporation tax on a monthly basis, I like to see it here in the profit and loss account at the bottom. And also, if I go back to my dashboard, let's go back here to our dashboard, I like to see it in a watch list. So if you have your corporation tax tagged in your watch list, then you can monitor both the corporation tax for the year that you've probably just finished but isn't payable yet, and the corporation tax that you're accruing in the current year that you're running and you're working through but is not due till the end or 9 months after the end of the next financial year. So we like to see corporation tax and payment date provided for in the watch list so that our clients are always completely aware and visible, it's transparent, it's visible, so that they know what corporation tax is due and payable. Now, if you have VAT that you've deferred under COVID-19 and you're not paying that back till March 2021, then we've also journaled all of that out into a separate account code and put it into the account watch list so our clients can see those. And you can do that in your business too. It's quite simple, she says, being an accountant who knows how to journal. Talk to your accountant if you're struggling, or talk to us. So the watch list should keep an eye on all of the things that you really want to know. So if you've got new projects, sales that you're monitoring, or director's loan accounts that you need to keep an eye on, these are the kind of things that you should be able to put in your account watch list, and you should be understanding and keeping on top of those numbers. Number 6 in terms of what you need to keep an eye on in your business is, of course, what you are owed. One of the most important things in any business is what you are owed and keeping on top of credit control. Now, there are 2 different types of reports in Xero for age receivables, and this is the old school version. I quite like this version again. What I particularly like is this one where you click the button and you show invoices and update this. So quite often this is a feature that clients miss in their Xero accounts, and it's so powerful, so useful, because you remember those two Port and Phillip invoices earlier on where we put the notes in on what the status is of that credit control process. We know by looking at the reference fields here that Port and Phillip at a glance has a promise to pay and this invoice is disputed. So instead of having to run in and look at each individual invoice or having to export everything into a spreadsheet and manage it on an Excel template, which of course gets out of date really quickly, we like to have all this information in Xero where you can see exactly what the status is of every invoice that's being chased. Now, this does get quite time consuming if you've got many invoices in a Xero account that you are chasing. So what we would recommend you do is ignore the current and the last 30 days, because hopefully with invoice reminders in Xero or a product such as Chaser, which is chasing your invoices each week, you don't have to keep on top of the ones that are only 30 to 45 days overdue. Those are the ones that tend to pay when you give them a nudge and a reminder. The ones you want to focus on are those ones that are 35, 45 days onwards. The people that know they ought to pay and they haven't yet. They're the overdues, the outliers. And they're the ones you really need to focus on. And they're the ones that you can keep your updates here in this reference field. So at a glance, whenever you look at your credit control, you can see exactly where you are with each one. Then you can click on the invoice and drill down into the detail a bit later. So if you've got a bookkeeper looking after your accounts and you want to see a snapshot of where they are, get them to use the reference fields in the accounts payable with a quick update of where, in your accounts receivable rather, to get them to tell you where they are in their credit control process. So super duper transparency on there. Number 7 of most important figures in our business is what we owe. So again, I'm going to look for my age payables in my drop down list here. And this is the new format report. So I wanted to show you the difference between an old format report and a new format report for payables and receivables. I don't like this so much, but for age payables, it doesn't really matter. All I care about is who I owe and how much I owe them for cash flow forecasting. Now, if I just open ABC Furniture in a new tab, I can see that this is made up of multiple invoices that all stretch over different time periods. So I can perhaps pay the March and the April ones, but I wouldn't necessarily pay the ones that are less than a month old, depending on the credit terms of the business and depending on my relationship with them, and of course how much cash I've got. So these are really common reports in Xero that are quite often overlooked. And what we do find is that sometimes clients will pay their suppliers based on the supplier ringing up and telling them over the phone that this much is outstanding, but they haven't checked their Xero account to see whether that invoice is actually outstanding or whether it's even been received into the business. So make sure you do that. Take a note over the phone of what your supplier says they are chasing, and then check it against your Xero account to make sure you have all of the invoices that they're chasing and that your system matches their request for payment. Now, the last thing I wanted to show you today is this brilliant business snapshot. Now, this is a brand new report from Xero. It was developed to help people manage their businesses through the COVID crisis, and it's it's a business snapshot. You can see it's in pilot. You can look at your last financial year, last month, last quarter, and current year to date. It's not a bad little report. Gives you a one-page snapshot of your profit and loss account, your income, your expenses, so you can see whether things are generally on the up, generally on the slide. It looks at your efficiency, which is your gross profit margin. So it's your sales minus your direct cost of sales and how efficient you are. So if that's dropping over a period of time, you need to have a look at that. And it's also showing you your your largest operating expenses, the 5 largest operating expenses. So you can keep an eye on the things that are most likely to cause you pain in your business. Now this is a test environment, so there's no history or no prior year to show, but you can see just at a glance, if you looked at this on a weekly basis, you can see how this can help you understand your numbers and help you get a better understanding of where you are in your business. One key metric to have a look at is down here in the bottom, and make sure that the average time to get paid, so people paying you, is less than the average time you are paying your suppliers. Doesn't need to be a huge gap, but try and get into the habit of chasing and getting money in first before you chase and pay your suppliers, so that there is enough money to pay you. So that's a whistle-stop tour of the 8 things that I think are most important in your business and how Xero can help you understand your numbers. Now, the one thing that I have deliberately skipped is the director's loan account, because I'm going to do that as a separate video. That's far too important to just skip over in a short video like this. So things that you need to keep an eye on when you want to know your numbers: your pipeline, your sales, the sales trends, which is not quite the same as your sales. Make sure you're not leaving any profit on the table with draft invoices or quotes that you haven't converted to an invoice. It happens far more often than you think it does, so take an eye on that one. Your profit and loss account, and making sure it's customized to show you what you need to know and your run rates for your overheads and expenses in your business. Your corporation tax, make sure your accountant is accruing this for you on a monthly or quarterly basis, so that you always know how much you should be putting aside for your corporation tax, and then of course put that aside. Number 6, what you are owed. So who owes you what? Keep on top of your credit control. Reconcile your cash receipts daily so that your credit is your age receivables are always up to date, and chase people regularly, weekly at the least, to make sure that they're paying you as soon as the money comes into their bank account. And then what you owe. Make sure that you don't let your suppliers down. Make sure that you're supporting small business and pay people as their bills fall due. And that sounds really obvious and probably a bit glib the way that I'm saying it, but this is such a tough time for people. One of the things that we really want to try and do is support our friends and neighbours, the small business. And then the business snapshot, this brand new report from Xero. Nice little report. It's developing, it's in pilot, it's going to improve through time. So keep an eye on that and make sure you know your numbers. Super, super, super important. So what's next? I would love for you to let me know how we're doing. Was this video helpful? Please click on the likes if you really enjoyed it. Let us know how you're doing. How's your business going? How are you coping in this environment? Are you using Xero to its best potential? How can we help you use it more effectively? We have 2 Facebook groups, one for business bookkeepers where we focus more on the bookkeeping and less on the business, and this one, which is the Bloody Brilliant Business Club, where we focus more on the business and less on the bookkeeping. If you want to join us and go pro, we have 2 memberships, one for bookkeepers, which is the Bloody Brilliant Business Academy, where again we take a deeper dive into your books and into the numbers behind the business, and one for business owners called Profit Hackers, where we're focused more on diving into the profit and generating long-term sustainable profit. So Profit Hackers is more about the direct and most efficient way to making your business as profitable as possible so that you can take more money out of your business. Also, we have a YouTube channel, so do pop over there and subscribe. And if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe now, and then you'll be notified when our next videos come up. And if you need an accountant or you want to talk to somebody on a one-to-one basis, you can find us at caseron.co.uk, and I'll see you there. Thanks for watching. Bye.